Boom, we have the Atom Audio D3V studio monitors, probably some of the flattest speakers you're going to find, especially in this size, as well as they have an incredibly wide frequency response for such a small speaker. These feature the handmade precision D-Art tweeters, 3.5-inch woofers, plus dual-sided 3.5-inch passive radiators, and man, these things really dance once you turn that volume up. They have a frequency response of, get this, 23.2K, all the way down to 45 hertz. You heard that right, 45 hertz in speakers this small. I have 8-inch speakers behind me, big ones, and their frequency response only gets down to 50 hertz. So these actually get lower than some larger speakers out there. They're also incredibly flat. If you look at the graph, that's incredibly flat, not just for a speaker of this size, but incredibly flat for any speaker of any size. So when you're using these to mix your music, you can be 100% assured that you're hearing what the music sounds like and not some tuning from the factory that made your speaker. In fact, if you're not used to the sound of flat studio monitors, when you first hear these, you might say, hey, it sounds a little muffled, or it sounds like there's no energy, or it maybe sounds like the low end isn't hitting hard enough. But these speakers are giving you an accurate representation of your actual audio, whereas most people are used to listening on speakers that have sort of a V shape of some kind, usually some sort of a bump in the top end, some sort of a bump in the bottom end, and maybe even carving out a bit in that mid-range because that adds a little more energy, and that's what humans really like to hear. The great thing about these is what you hear is what's actually there. So it gives you like a blank canvas to, whatever changes you want to make to your mix with EQ, compression, or whatever other plugins that you want to use. You can be assured that what you're changing is how the audio actually sounds, and it's not colored by, again, some tonal adjustment made at the factory, from the speakers that you're listening on. And that's the best way to make sure that your mix translates well between different types of speakers. The D3Vs feature TRS inputs, of course, for connection to professional audio equipment, like your audio interface. But they also have a USB-C input, so you can connect it directly to your computer, directly to your phone, directly to your iPad, just over that USB-C. You can also quickly switch between them with the knob on the front. They come with optional monitor stands if you want them set at an angle instead of setting them flat. And they also have a built-in 3/8-inch mic adapter on the bottom, so you can actually connect this to any standard mic stand instead of having to shell out hundreds of dollars for, specific monitor stands. As long as you have a mic stand with a 3/8-inch connection, or you can buy an adapter, because if you're in the US, most of your mic stands are going to be 5/8. So just get an adapter, and then you can connect these to any mic stand that you want. And because of their size and ability to be mounted to just standard mic stands, it also makes these incredibly portable. If you want to move these around to other studios, it's not going to be like, lugging around 30-pound monitors, to your friend's house or to some other small studio. And you'll be able to mix on incredibly flat studio monitors that also have a very wide frequency response. So you'll be able to trust your mix no matter where you're mixing at. As far as the sound goes, when someone asks me, hey, do the D3Vs sound good? My reply is always the same. No, they don't. They sound accurate. And that's a different thing. If you feed it garbage, it's going to reproduce it exactly. These monitors are not going to cover up your mistakes. They're not going to make you feel good about yourself. They're not going to trick you into thinking your mix is better than it is. And then you get out to your car or to another system and you realize your mix sounds like garbage. These will expose everything in your mix because they're not going to cover it and they're not going to drown it in tons of bass. They're not going to hype up the top end to make it sparkle. It's going to sound like what it sounds like with these. And again, one of the great things about these is not only are they flat, not only do they have that wide frequency response, they're also small. So they can fit in smaller project studios, home studios. If you were just going to get one pair of monitors and you want something for your home studio, the D3V is definitely one that you would want to check out. Don't get me wrong, there's tons of great monitors out there, but these are ones that you can definitely mix on, definitely trust, and your mix is going to translate better to more systems. Here's the box, take a look at it, go over the specs, pop it open. There's the quick start guide. Use that QR code if you want to read the manual for yourself. A USB-C cable, and it's about 58 inches long and comes with a USB-A adapter. There's the power supply, a 4-pin link cable, This cable is about 77 inches long, and it connects to the rear of the speakers like this. And the power cable. Connect the power cable to the power supply, and this whole thing is about 141 inches. There's the monitors and the optional stands. The bottom is padded and rubberized, and they connect to the monitors in this slot. Just, slide them on, and you can always remove them if you want. In the pack with the quick start guide, you'll also find some rubber feet. These stick to the bottom if you want to set them flat instead of with the angled stands. On the rear of the left monitor, there are room compensation switches, the USB-C port, 1/4-inch inputs, speaker connector, and power input. On the right speaker is a legend of the volume knob functions, in case you ever forget. Press once to mute. Press twice to switch from the TRS to USB-C. Press 3 times to swap channels. And press and hold for 2 seconds to shut down. On the bottom of the monitors is a 3/8-inch mount, which is standard for mic stands in Europe. But if you're in the US, the standard is 5/8. So in that case, you'd get some 5/8 to 3/8 adapters, and I will have links for these in the description below. And then you can use any standard mic stand as a monitor stand, which is much cheaper than buying dedicated monitor stands. If you want something that you can set on a desktop, then the on-stage desktop mic stands are perfect for that, and I'll also have a link for those in the description below. To connect these to your audio interface, use 2 1/4-inch TRS cables. And TRS cables have 2 rings and are balanced, while TS cables have 1 ring and are unbalanced. They will technically work, but you're much better off using TRS cables. So connect them to the monitors, connect them to your audio interface, and you're ready to start mixing with incredibly flat monitors. To use the USB-C input, connect the cable to the speakers, then into your computer or maybe to a smartphone, and then press the volume knob twice and it will switch over.
Here writes, my new book is about the terrible plans that tech billionaires have for the future and why they don't work. Silicon Valley's heartless,
press twice again
and
to switch back.
Obsession.
There's also a headphone output on the front, and whenever you plug in your headphones, the speakers will mute and all sound will be routed to the headphones. The D3Vs do have an auto standby function, so they will shut off after 20 minutes of not receiving a signal, and then you have to tap the front button to turn them back on. But you can disable this function, as I've done, as long as your firmware is updated and then follow the instructions. After that, whenever you turn on your speakers, they will stay on until you manually turn them off. Now, unfortunately, there's no real accurate way for me to be able to let you know what these speakers sound like over the internet, because my room will have a sound to it. The microphone I use will have a certain sound to it. Any compression that, YouTube or Rumble adds will have a sound to it, or, may change things. And then also whatever speakers you're listening on are of course going to color the sound. So this test here is not a scientific test. It's not meant to really show you exactly what they sound like, because they sound great in the room. They sound accurate in the room. If you've never heard a flat speaker, these sound incredibly flat. Now we're going to be testing these against 2 other pairs of speakers. The PreSonus Aris 3.5, which I've reviewed in the past. Great small speakers. The frequency response isn't as wide. They're not quite as flat as this. They do have a bit of enhancement and excitement in some areas. And the larger 8-inch speakers, which again only get down to like 50 hertz, and they also have a bit of a mid-range carve out to them. And you'll probably hear that in the example. But again, what you really want to listen for here is the representation of the frequencies and then the comparison to other types of monitors. Now, the microphone we're going to use is the XY mic from the Zoom H6. It's flat enough and it's an XY stereo microphone, so that's why we used it. I also set that microphone back a little bit further from the speakers because, again, whenever you're really using monitors in a room, it's going to interact with your room. So in order to be more accurate, I don't have it pressed right up against the speakers. I have it set back sort of in that sweet spot where a person would actually be sitting. Again, this is not a scientific representation, but I think you're going to be impressed by what these tiny little speakers can do.
seeing me, I ain't lost in a minute. Ain't no putting me down, they thought I was finished. Yeah, heart's been cold, I've been cold for a minute. Ain't no seeing me, I ain't lost in a minute. Ain't no putting me down, they thought I was finished. Yeah, heart's been cold, I've been cold for a minute. Ain't no seeing me, I ain't lost in a minute. Ain't no putting me down, they thought I was finished. Ain't no stopping me now, can't be stopped, no limit. Everywhere that I go, they looking for me. Heard you was looking for me, here I am, you see me, you see me. I've been making my way, now I'm running my city. Heard you wanted to see me, come see me. I've been hurting for real. Tells a story, pure and unbroken. Every sound a promise, a truth softly spoken. Mid-range tells a story, pure and unbroken. Every sound a promise, a truth softly spoken. Tells a story, pure and unbroken. Every sound a promise, a truth softly spoken. They sound like heaven. Oh, can you feel every note, every chord? Betrayal screams, echoes wide. Betrayal screams, echoes wide. Betrayal screams, echoes wide. Torn apart, nowhere to hide. A shattered vow of denied. In this abyss we collide.
So bottom line, the Atom Audio D3Vs are incredibly impressive for their size and also for their price range. They have a very flat frequency response. They represent everything very, very well. They're clear, they are articulate. The bass is very, very punchy. It's not going to be overwhelming because they are smaller speakers, but yeah, it can rattle your windows, it can rattle your desk. So they do get very loud even for being smaller speakers. You know, when listening to metal or hip hop or anything with, you know, a lower end drum beat, it comes through incredibly well. And that's really because it's not overhyped in the low end where things start to get really boomy. It also has a very good response in that mid-range, very good response, smooth response in the upper end without being hyped or more excited than it actually should be. Like I said, it's an accurate representation of your audio, and it's going to say, this is what it is. You know, these speakers aren't meant to sound good. They're meant to sound accurate. So if you want accurate audio from something small that can easily be placed on your desk, or can be put on stands, or can be put on, put on mic stands, then these are ones that you would definitely want to check out. And Atom Audio is a name that I'm sure we all know and we all trust. They make absolutely incredible products. So I would highly suggest that you check these out. Of course, we'll have links for these in the description below. Once again, that is the Atom Audio D3V studio monitors.